All right, howdy friends. Welcome back to the blog. This is going to be a long one. Started off as just sitting in the truck, eating, pulled over at the beach here, looking at the beach behind you in front of me to go Port Harbor, and that's what you're seeing behind me. Yeah, you can see it back there. Eating, listening to some stuff. I'm on this kick, learning different personality types and learning about myself. I was listening to an audio as I was eating that I thought was interesting, and turned into just rambling and ranting and raving and, you know, vlog type style. And then old friend of mine, Paul Beavers, drove by in front of me, and I was like, oh, there's Paul. So I went and chased down Paul, went and visited with a friend that I hadn't seen and talked to in a while, an old buddy I used to work with at the Great Casino Gulfport. Excuse me. So I went and chatted with Paul, met his wife, and now I'm back over here. I'm going to do a little bit of reading before I leave, and before I leave the beach here. But I wanted to come back to this because I'm going to go ahead and turn this video into a vlog. That's what the vlog's all about, is long form. It's like my personal journal. And right now I am learning much about myself and the personality types and just about myself. I'm learning a lot about myself. So the next thing that you're going to see is, as this is over, is it's going into the original video that I was shooting, which I forget how long it turned out to be, but pretty long. And then I'm about to turn this off, and I'm about to add some recap that'll go at the back end of all of this here now. So enjoy this long ass vlog. Oh, and there is F-bombs in that section that I made, which is coming after this when I was eating and all that. So viewer beware, mature audiences only.
There is no slide downwards for this individual like the empath. There is no sudden collapse like the codependent. Instead, the super empath goes into supernova mode. The trait makeup of the super empath is different from their cousins in the empathic group. Whereas the codependent has strong and many empathic traits with little and low narcissistic traits, and the empath has few and fairly low narcissistic traits, but more and quite strong empathic traits, the super empath has a different constitution. The super empath has very strong and numerous empathic traits. He or she also has a number of narcissistic traits, more than the codependent and more than the empath, but not as many as the narcissistic group. And those narcissistic traits which they have are stronger in nature. This arrangement is not problematic. Like the super empath's narcissistic makeup to the light from a candle, and their empathic makeup the light from a spotlight. The intensity of the spotlight is so bright that the candle light is barely noticed. Accordingly, the narcissistic element of the super empath does not ordinarily appear. The super empath behaves in an empathic way, and thus is a prime target for our kind. There comes a time, however, when the sustained abuse and the awareness of the super empath reaches a critical point. Rather than switch off or slide into decline, the super empath will decide that enough is enough. In some instances, this means the super empath will escape and follow a similar route to that of the empath and distance themselves from the narcissist. On other occasions, they enter into supernova mode. When this happens, the super empath will dim their empathic traits. This can only be dimming. The empathic traits cannot be shut off, as they are wired into the empath. Moreover, this dimming can only continue for a period of time and is not permanent. The naturally strong empathic nature of the super empath means that it will blaze bright again. However, when this dimming takes place, the gap between empathy and narcissism in the super empath lessens so that the narcissistic traits are more prevalent. They do not dominate, nor do they take over, but they are allowed to shine.
Right.
However, whereas in our kind the application of our narcissistic traits is unfettered, since we have no empathic trait, and thus these traits are directed in a malevolent, harmful, and destructive manner, the super empath uses these unleashed narcissistic traits for good. This means that they will fight back against our kind and remain in the relationship with us. They will shut off the fuel provision. They will engage in manipulation of us, having learned how to effect it from their accompanying journey with our kind. the super empath will wound and wound, striking blow upon blow against the narcissist. It is worth pointing out that the super empath does not necessarily know that they are entangled with a narcissist. They may only realize this later. But rather, they know that something is very wrong in the relationship, and it must no longer continue. Thus, when some people ask the question, can you become a narcissist from being with a narcissist? Or, can I pick up narcissistic traits from my experience of being entangled with a narcissist? The answers are no. But if you find that you are exhibiting such traits, and you are deploying them against the narcissist, what has happened is that you are allowing your inherent narcissistic traits to have greater prominence. You keep them under control, and you are not allowing them to harm or hurt innocent parties, but rather you are applying them against the narcissist in order to strike back. You always had these traits. You have not gained them by being with us. Right. But what you have learned is how to manipulate from being with us, and now you are turning those manipulations against us.
You know how to play your game.
The effect against us is varied.
That's what he's saying.
The lesser narcissist will discard immediately with a display of ignited fury as he seeks to escape the turning of the tables. He will need to get away from this empowered super empath and find a new primary source straight away. He wants to shrink from this blazing supernova of power, which is causing him considerable difficulty through the cessation of fuel and the wounding from repeated criticism. The mid-range narcissist will find himself in a tormented loop as he tries to assert control. He will not comprehend truly what is happening. He will not want to lose the super empath owing to the fuel provision. But he is finding that his ability to manipulate and the reasonable degree of calculation that he has is being sorely tested. He will try to assert his control through passive-aggressive means, even pleading with the super empath to stop and, why can't you be good to me again? He will roll out the pity plays and sympathy cards in order to try to achieve superiority again. However, either the super empath decides to escape and leaves the mid-ranger in a confused and bewildered state, or the mid-ranger slinks away and discards, unable to sustain the fight, and needing a new and far more compliant primary source. The greater narcissist will rail against this insurrection and fight back. He will draw on fuel from alternative sources, usually the intimate partner secondary sources, or intimate partner secondary sources he has in the wings, along with the fuel from those non-intimate secondary sources who are his inner and outer circle friends. He draws on many secondary sources. He will relish the challenge shown by the super empath, and a real battle of wills ensues, as each combatant deploys manipulation after manipulation against one another. This hammer and tongs clash of the pythons is the super empath applying what they have learned, similar to the apprentice turning on his own master, as the old hand seeks to slap down the irreverent upstart. The super empath may withdraw and escape, satisfied that they have made their mark and scarred the greater. The greater may ultimately recognize that only a stalemate, for now, can ensue and breaks off, discarding the super empath, and focuses on the acquisition of a new primary source, or, more likely, the promotion of an already ensnared intimate partner secondary source. The greater, however, will not leave matters there. A note will be made to rejoin battle in due course, and bring the super empath to heel. Thus, the empathic supernova is when the super empath determines that enough is enough, and he or she reduces their empathic traits, allowing the narcissistic traits to come to the fore. In so doing, he or she trains their sights on making life difficult, miserable, and awkward for the narcissist.
No.
This is why our kind proceed with caution with the super empath. Their capacity for sucking up the abusive devaluation and their impressive fuel provision is tempting indeed. But reaching the critical point and causing the ignition of the empathic supernova can have dire consequences for our kind. Not for me, of course. I relish the challenge and the assertion of hegemonic dominance, obviously.
It'd be quite a conquest, wouldn't it? So, this person is speaking from a position of being a narcissist. And to conquer a super empath, I have champagne supernova in the sky. But to conquer a super empath who's gone through a supernova would be quite a conquest for a narcissist. Which is the kind of validation that narcissists need They need conquests. So much of their validation and identity talks about source a lot in here. And basically the codependent or the empathetic types are oftentimes the ones that will be susceptible to a narcissistic one's games and ways of being, manipulation. Quite fascinating. I don't have any real opinion on any of this in terms of like I am starting to believe that I am what they're calling a super empath, which sounds egotistical to say if you don't know much about this stuff or what I mean by that, which I'm just learning now. In July, I started playing with this idea that I might be an empath through conversations that I've had with others. And I have this whole thing. I was so repulsed by this idea that I might be an empath. And I'm going to drop an F-bomb here. But I have this joke. You say I'm an empath? Well, fuck you too. So, because what I hear when I hear empath, typically, what I've always seen, what I hear when I hear somebody say, "Oh, I'm an empath," what I usually hear when I hear people talking like that, saying it, identifying themselves as an empath, is I'm hearing a victim mentality, a martyr. Oh, I can't control my energy because I get around the energy of somebody who's in a lower level vibration, and I just have to meet them there. And not taking responsibility for your vibe, your way of being, your emotional stance. You don't know how to set your sail in this world. You're only vulnerable to the winds that are blowing, and whatever way they're blowing, whatever's around you, whatever energy is around you, you can't help it but to get into that energy with somebody. You know what's the best thing you could do for poor people? Not be one of them. What's the best thing you could do for miserable people? Not be one of them, right? So that idea of empath, I have seen by and large as a synonym for martyrism, being a martyr. But I'd have to be delusional to not see that I have some empathetic ways of me, you know, whatever. As I learned more since July, learning more about what it means to be an empath. I don't like labels, an empath. I might say I have empathetic ways. I don't want to say I am an empath. But I have a hard time putting myself in boxes of any kind, or putting you in a box of any kind. Putting another in a box of any kind. But all that to say, I'm doing a lot of new ways of learning. I've been learning in personal development circles for 15 plus years, probably something in that range, without stopping to think about it. Reading books like Think and Grow Rich, Walking on Fire with Tony Robbins, reading all the books and tapes, doing all those things, learning from the successful, the mindset, the psychology of success and winning, as Charlie Sheen said, you know, right? From an intellectual standpoint. So the book I'm reading right now, I'm doing an Audible book. That's not what you just heard. That was some YouTube video. The Audible book I'm reading is Melanie Beattie's Codependent No More. And codependent is a new word to me too. I don't know if I identify as a codependent, but as I'm learning about what a codependent is, it would seem that most of us in society have some traits, ways, developed habits of codependency in many ways. Maybe that's a way of me deflecting and saying I'm, you know, whatever. But Melanie Beattie's Codependent No More is a fascinating book. I'm also reading The Hoffman Process by Tim Lawrence, and I'm really, really excited because I'm scheduled to do the residency. If you're familiar with the Hoffman Process, the Hoffman Institute, I'm going through the process in January. So in like a month and some change, something, yeah. It's December something right now. Next month, at the end of next month, I'm going through the Hoffman Process. I'm very, very excited about that. I'm on chapter 8 on this book right now, but I've done all of the homework for the 8-day residence course. I've listened, and a big part of their homework is an audio, a booklet, and like I said, I'm on chapter 7 with this, and I've watched, I don't even know how many hours of YouTube stuff about Hoffman, hearing from some of their past students, hearing from some of their teachers, hearing about the process and what it's all about. I spoke on the phone when I called the Hoffman Institute to get information on how much does it cost, what does this all look like, what do I, so I kind of start formulating a game plan and evaluating if this was the thing that I wanted to do. By the time I got off that phone call with them, I knew for a fact with an amazing woman named Lizzie. I spent an hour on the phone with a woman named Lizzie at the Hoffman Institute, which they have. This book was written by one of the coaches or trainers or teachers, or whatever they call themselves, from the UK. But the Hoffman Institute has institutions all over the place. And it's an 8-day or 7-day residency thing. I'm going to give them my cell phone, and I'm out of touch with the world for 7 or 8 days. You're going through the process, and I'm excited about this. And I can already see where this is going and what this is all about. I don't know if there was a point that I was going somewhere with that, and I'm not sure what it was now. But I'm learning a lot. A blind spot. Since my time at Rhythmia, which I went to Rhythmia, and it has been so full of such blessings in so many ways, it's absolutely ridiculous. The Rhythmia is an ayahuasca retreat. It's a 7-day retreat, 4 days of ayahuasca. So we did 4 plant ceremonies, plant medicine ceremonies, Monday night, Tuesday night, Wednesday night, Thursday night. And a lot of yoga, a lot of integration classes, just a lot of beautiful things. If you're not familiar with ayahuasca, look at ayahuasca. I have a ayahuasca playlist. I'll link it underneath this blog. Presupposing, I really just turned this thing on as I was eating. Now I'm presupposing I'm gonna turn this into a blog post. Anyway, at ayahuasca, or at that ayahuasca retreat at Rhythmia, I did a lot of spiritual work that I can't describe or put my finger on to describe, to communicate what I got out of that experience. But one of the things I got out of that experience was a beautiful family, a lot of human connections that are very, very special. And one friend in particular has been a real blessing, and she has helped me see so much of my blind spots and put me on a path, like this work right here, this Hoffman stuff. It was such a blind spot for me, and I'm just so grateful that I can see a new area. I feel like I found the missing puzzle piece, and I'm not done, right? But I have this attitude, I'll fix anything, I'll address anything, I'm willing to check myself before I wreck myself, kind of a thing. I'm willing to look at myself objectively, and I want to call myself out. I want to see the areas where I can do whatever uncomfortable work needs to be done to get better, to do what I need to do to become who I want to become in this world. If I want a life of happiness, peace, prosperity is the one word that encompasses all of it. Money, happiness, peace, all of it. Prosperity is not just about money. If you never made a study of prosperity is not about money. Money is a part of prosperity, but prosperity is not about money. Money is a part of prosperity, though. Do not deny yourself, especially if you're doing it because, well, I won't get into that. It was Paul. I should chase that dude down. I ain't seen Paul in forever. I might go chase out Paul. Anyway, yeah. Good shit. Okay, so I'm not sure where I was at the end there when I saw Paul, but let me show you this real quick as I wrap this up. See that little thing right there? That represents quadrinity, as they talk about at Hoffman. The quadrinity is the 4 aspects of ourselves, or 4 components of ourselves, let's say, however they phrase it, the 4 parts of ourselves that make up our persona, which means mask, by the way. I learned that in reading this book. I didn't know that one before, but a personality, our persona, is made up of 4 parts. This is one way of thinking about it, but the 4 parts being the overall circle there is our physical self. So in this case, we're focusing more on that cheesy thing in between this, in this side, this skull, the brain, the physical thing that people hold in their hands, and I say this side, that side, whatever, which is like a cheesy type substance. This malleable thing, this physical thing though. So anyway, the overall circle is the physical self. The diamond in the middle, right here. The diamond in the middle is our spiritual self. The diamond on the right is our intellectual self, and the diamond on the left is our emotional self. Now, what I have been doing my entire adult life has been working on the intellectual component, doing all the books and tapes and psychology stuff and all that kind of shit. That's been working on the intellectual component of myself. My overall story has been my entire life, I do not have any childhood trauma. The overall story of my childhood is one of loved and supported, and that is a real fact. Well, maybe not the trauma part, but there's much I've learned about what trauma is, and I'll describe that in a minute. Now, if I were to give you details of some of the life events that I have experienced as that, age 13 and below they talk about, it's like they talk about by the age of 7 kind of a thing, but in any of those ages in childhood kind of a thing, basically up to 5, 6, 7 years old especially, but even as far as up to 13 years old, but 7 and below is primo time for much emotional issues to be established without your really understanding or awareness of what has been established inside of you. So learning a lot of this, essentially everyone has childhood trauma. And they started talking about this at Rhythmia, and I didn't buy it, basically, but it's been elaborated on more now in some of the things that I've been studying. So humans, we children, were very egocentric as childs. It's not the same as egotistical, it's egocentric, meaning the world revolves around us. And our childhood trauma could be something as simple as we didn't get fed quickly enough. We cried ourselves to sleep, kind of a thing. And there wasn't anything that we could do about the fact that we can't eat. We're very vulnerable and needy as babies, humans. One thing I learned in this stuff here too is that humans, we are vulnerable and needy to our caretakers, our providers, longer than any other mammal on the planet. Isn't that interesting? It's interesting. Just interesting. I don't know. Just interesting. But here's the thing, though. So as a child, as a 2-year-old, let's say, or a 5-year-old, or a 6-year-old, whatever, from this egocentric place where we haven't developed the intellect yet to see the bigger picture, it could be something like I said, you didn't get fed quickly enough. It could be something like mommy and daddy got divorced and that's your fault because you weren't good enough to keep them together, kind of a thing, which of course we know as adults doesn't make any damn sense, but we're not talking about an adult conversation here. We're talking about a conversation that a child has in their head. Now, it could be daddy wasn't there enough. Now, daddy could have been out making money so he could feed you, but that doesn't equate in your egocentric child brain. All you know is daddy's not here enough, therefore I must not be important enough for daddy to be here with. As an example, right? So the point is that as you start studying this stuff, they essentially are saying everybody's got childhood trauma. And all trauma is equal, meaning doesn't matter what the event was. If you equate it as trauma in your egocentric child brain, that energy is there. Now, all right, so here's what I'm learning about the intellectual component of me has looked at any of my past events with the understanding that I don't live then, I live now. So whatever may have happened in my childhood is not relevant to me now anyways, because I don't live then. I live now. I live in a constant never-ending now, right? The Don Miguel Ruiz's 4 agreements. Nothing anybody does is about me, it's about them. There's booby traps with labels like mommy and daddy, because we're expecting these humans to be some kind of superhuman, special, amazing, perfect kind of a thing or something. And it's easy to understand how we could do that. Think about it, when we're brand new humans, our caretaker humans, our parents are amazing. I mean, look at all the things they can do, right? They can walk and talk and drive and bring us food. I mean, they're our source of our sustenance and all this kind of stuff. So it's easy to get wowed by them. And there's emotional bonds and all this kind of stuff too, biological connections and whatnot. So it's easy to understand how we can create, do that. And what was the other one? Everybody's doing the best that they can with who and what they are. These are all intellectual understandings. So here's the booby trap in what I have been doing. I have been discounting any childhood stuff because I've already addressed that. I've already looked at all of that. I see it for what it was. It's not about me. It was about anybody else. It's not now anyways, that kind of stuff. Not relevant. Okay, I've addressed that. I've checked that box. What else might be my blind spot? What is wrong with me that I'm not allowing? And if you don't know my story, if you hadn't watched my blog, if you're not familiar with me, I've got a dream for myself and I'm way over here and I'm not allowing that dream. And it's very, very clear to me that I am sabotaging my allowing of my vision for myself. There's nobody in my way at all but me, the world, the universe, God, the society wants nothing more than to support me, wants to give me all that I want. The universe has got your back. God has got your back. Try to outgive God. I dare you. You can't do it. Kind of a thing. And there is one person that can get in your way. You know who that person is? It's you. Who's the one person that's been at the scene of every crime in your life? I'm starting with the man in the mirror. Oh yeah, I'm asking him to change his ways. All right. No message could have been any clearer. If you want to make the world a better place, take a look at yourself and make a change. Woo! Woo! Be the change you want to see. Anyway, all that to say, I distracted myself. So the booby trap has been for me that I addressed all of that childhood stuff. That's not my problem. Where is my booby trap? Where is my blind spot? What am I not seeing? Why am I sabotaging myself and not allowing myself to live this life that I have imagined? Why? What is my deal? I don't understand it. It's not worthiness stuff because I'm a good dude with good intentions. I know who I am. It's not this, it's not that. I'm looking at everything. I've been willing and objectively looking at myself for a long time now. I'm 43 years old right now as I record this in December of 2021. I'm 43 years old. I was a high school dropout, self-employed real estate guy at age 24. In my 20s, I was doing 6 figures a year. I'd done the thing, set the arrow, boom, this is what I want to do. I walked that way and I became what I wanted to become, a full-time real estate investor guy. Did a couple years in the 6 figures. I did some 8 years in the 80,000 range before that, which was double what I was a casino guy working at a casino as a high school dropout guy. Now all of a sudden I'm doing $80,000 a year. Now all of a sudden I'm doing 6 figures a year. I didn't allow that for but more than 2 years, the 6-figure part, and immediately found a way to sabotage that and quit allowing that. And ever since then, which I'm talking about with 30-something years old without thinking about it, with 32, 33, for a decade now, I've been in my recession, doing things that just get in my way. I have known exactly what I want to do for a career for 10 years plus now. I say 10 years plus because I've known the career path, the profession that I'm built for, that I'm here for, that I want to do. Since October 17, 2007, I became a student of the multi-level marketing pyramid games, direct sales. I became a student of that game in October 17, 2007. If I'm not mistaken, that's right. October 17, 2007. Yeah, that's when I became a diligent student of this game, learning from some of the best in the profession. September 26th, Going off of memory now. That was loud. Sorry. Little John Deere tractor fella. September 26th, 2011, it must have been. I joined my company, my direct sales company that I'm partnered with still today. I know exactly what company I'm here to be with. I know what profession I'm here to do, what market offering I'm here to offer, the way I'm going to make my difference in the world and have all the things that I want. And yet I won't allow it. I sabotage it. I always find a way to not allow it. And I've been wanting to know, trying to figure out what is my blind spot. And the booby trap for me is that I was looking at the childhood stuff, thinking that I had addressed it, and evidently I addressed it only from the intellectual standpoint, from this side of the diamond, not the emotional component, the other side. So that child in me established some emotions that are in my cheesy thing, in my brain apparatus, in the physical apparatus there, that need to be processed. So I'm going to go through the process. I lost my train of thought. I think I've rambled on a lot. I've rambled on a lot. And I'm learning a lot about the different character types. I guess that's how this whole thing started off too. I was listening to an audio on super empaths, which is a new word to me. The Empathic Supernova, which is kind of like an event that empathetic people go through, evidently. Learning what narcissism is. And you know, on the vein of narcissism, where a narcissist, if we're going to put boxes, a narcissist does not have empathy for another, kind of a thing, right? So I'm like, okay, I would describe myself as having narcissistic tendencies in some ways, but definitely not a narcissist because I have empathy for others. Maybe too much empathy. I'm not saying I am an empath, but I'm certainly empathetic to the world around me, right? But now learning about what this super empath is, and basically, if you heard that audio at the beginning of this thing I was listening to, I've listened to several now on this whole idea of a super empath. A super empath has narcissistic, has some narcissism in their nature, but they're not narcissistic in the sense that they're not empathic to others. They don't, you know what I mean? They don't seem to value themselves above others, but they certainly do value themselves highly. That resonates with me. I'm down with that. Like, I'm not of the opinion that there's levels. I think we're all just special and unique and amazing and awesome in our own unique flavors, but I don't think there's degrees of awesome. I think there's just different flavors of it, different vibes, where a narcissist is important and you're not. A narcissist needs their world around them to validate them, prop them up, and their opinion and thoughts and I'll say demands are righteous and appropriate. And how dare you not agree with them or challenge them or think that you're on their level, kind of a thing, or you can't be equals, it seems. So I'm like, well, I'm definitely not a narcissist, but I do, when I was learning about some of this stuff before, because I've looked at myself before with this idea of narcissism and whatnot, and I was like, oh, there's some things in there, but a supernova, according to some of these things I'm listening to, a supernova can have some narcissistic tendencies, is a word that I use. I think it phrased it in this audio that I was just listening to as a natural thing, but it's more in check. And it's more of a self-valuation is what it sounds. It's more what resonates with me. It's more of a, I too am just as worthy. You are not more worthy than me, kind of a thing, right? Which, amen, I say. Anyway, I'm definitely rambling on. If you actually watched all this, God bless you. Because this is a 14-minute one here. I think it was 20-something minutes before. So it's like an hour-long worth of not planned out, not thought out ramblings. So I might call this super ramblings or rambling on supernovas. Anyway, supernova? Super empath. Champagne supernova. All right, I gotta keep moving. Excuse me. It's like Monday the 13th. I may turn this into a blog. Probably just should. Just do it. Just post it. I'm on my journey. I'm going to do a video, and I ended up talking a lot about the things that I was going to talk about the video about going through the process. I was going to do a video, I was going to title it for the blog. I was going to say, I'll be out of pocket for a week. If you need me, don't worry, I'll call you, or something like that. You know what I mean? If you need me, I'll call you. You know, that kind of thing, which is something I stole from Randy Gage from a long time ago from his blog post. But I loved it. I was like, oh, that's dope. He's like, so, you know, he said basically, I'll be out of pocket, but if you need me, don't worry, I'll call you. Anyway, hey, appreciate you tuning in. Love your face. Namaste, motherfucker.